Close your eyes now and let the world grow still. Let your breathing become soft and slow, like the gentle rise and fall of a sleeping child's chest. You are safe here. You are protected. And I am going to tell you a story about a very special kind of protection. A protection that was built, not of walls or weapons, but of clay and patience, and a love so deep it has lasted for more than 2,000 years. Our story begins in a land of wide rivers and misty mountains in ancient China. The time is over 2,000 years ago. The country has just been unified under a single leader, a king who has now taken a new title, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. He has done many powerful things in his life. He has built roads and canals, and he has standardized the writing system so that all his people can understand each other. But now this powerful emperor is thinking about something very different. He is thinking about rest. Not just the rest of a single night, but a much longer, deeper, more peaceful sleep. A sleep that will last for eternity. The first emperor, like many people of his time, believed that life continued in another form after this one, and he wanted to be prepared. He did not want to enter that silent, unknown world alone and undefended. So he called for the finest craftsmen in all of China. Not warriors, not generals, but artists. Sculptors who could work miracles with the soft, red-brown earth, and so began the most extraordinary, most patient art project the world has ever known. Imagine a vast complex of workshops, built not far from the emperor's own tomb on the outskirts of the ancient capital. The air here was not filled with the sound of battle cries or clashing metal. Instead, it was filled with the quiet, purposeful hum of creation. The air smelled of damp clay, of wood smoke from the great kilns, and of the faint, sweet scent of the lacquer that would be used to paint the finished works. In these workshops, the sculptors worked in a silent, steady rhythm. They were not hurried. They had been given a sacred and monumental task to create an entire army. Not an army of living, breathing soldiers, but an army of terracotta. Thousands and thousands of individual warriors, each one unique, each one a silent guardian, waiting patiently in the dark. Let us watch one of these master sculptors at work. He is an older man, with hands as steady as the mountains and eyes that see the soul inside the clay. He sits on a low stool in a quiet corner of the workshop, lit by the warm, dancing glow of a single oil lamp. Before him is a lump of wet, gray-brown clay. It is cool and heavy, and it smells of the deep earth from which it came. He begins by building the legs. He does not use a mold, at least not for the main body. He builds the legs from thick coils of clay, rolling them out like ropes, and then pressing them together with his strong, patient thumbs. Press, smooth, the clay yields to his touch. He works his way upwards, building the torso, the broad, solid chest. He shapes the shoulders, the thick protective plates of the armor, the long, heavy robes. Each fold in the clay clothing is carved with a small wooden tool, a rhythmic, meditative scratching sound, joining the soft symphony of the workshop. Scrape, scratch, but it is the face that takes the most time. And this is the true wonder of the silent army. Every single warrior was given his own face. No two are exactly alike in all the thousands that have been found. The sculptor does not work from a picture. He works from his memory, his observation of the men he sees in the market, in the palace guard, in his own village. He might be thinking of his own son, a young man who is now a soldier in the emperor's service. And so, into this clay, he pours all the quiet love and worry and pride he feels for his son. He shapes the high cheekbones of a warrior from the northern plains. He molds the heavy brow and calm, steady eyes of a commanding officer. He gives another soldier a slight, peaceful smile, as if he is remembering a happy moment from his life. Each face is a quiet meditation, a silent portrait of a man who never was, but who now somehow exists. The sculptors are creating life from mud, patiently, gently. Once the main figure was complete, it was not yet the finished soldier. The massive statue, taller than a real man and immensely heavy, had to be dried slowly in the shade so the thick clay would not crack in the heat. It might sit for a week or more draped with damp cloths before it was ready for the fire. And now we come to the fire, the kilns. Behind the workshops, great beehive-shaped kilns rose from the ground, built of brick and earth. They were fired with wood, and their gentle, powerful heat could be felt from many steps away. The firing of a terracotta warrior was a delicate, patient process. The fire was lit slowly, a tiny flame at first, then gradually, over many hours, growing into a soft, steady roar. The heat inside the kiln climbed to an astonishing temperature, almost 1,000 degrees Celsius. Inside, the soft gray clay was transformed by the fire into a hard, permanent orange-red stone, terracotta, baked earth. A body that would last for centuries. The sculptors, waiting by the kilns in the cool night air, would listen. They could hear the soft, deep hum of the fire, and sometimes a quiet, high-pitched ping from inside. The sound of the clay hardening, of the warriors being born in the heat. After 3 days of firing, the kiln would slowly cool down for another week before the door could be opened. And when it was opened, there stood a soldier, not of soft clay, but of hard, immortal stone. But still, the work was not done. The soldiers, now a soft, warm terracotta color, were brought to the painters. These artists worked with pots of brilliant color. They used a special liquid made from the sap of the lacquer tree, which was mixed with ground-up minerals to create a deep, dark, glistening paint. The warriors' robes were painted a rich crimson red. Their trousers were a soft, peaceful blue. Their armor plates were linked with black straps. Their boots were a dark, earthy brown. The faces, once the paint was dry, were given a gentle, living flesh tone. Eyes were painted with a deep, calm black, a tiny pinprick of white for the pupil, so they seemed to be looking with a quiet, serene kindness into eternity. The last thing to be added was the hands. The hands were made separately, often the only part of the body that was pressed into a mold. But even then, the sculptors would finish them by hand, giving each soldier a slightly different grip. Some hands were curled as if holding a bronze sword. Others were shaped to hold a long wooden spear. Some, the charioteers, held their hands out in front of them as if they were calmly driving a team of horses, and then they were ready. But they were not placed in the light. They were taken, one by careful one, down into the dark. For the first emperor's vision was not a public monument to be admired under the sun. It was a secret, a sacred gift for the earth itself. A few miles from the workshops, an enormous underground city was being dug. This was not a small tomb, but a vast complex of pits and corridors, a mirror of the emperor's real palaces, built entirely of rammed earth and thick wooden beams. Each warrior was carried in a silent, dignified procession, and slowly, gently placed in his position in the long, dark corridors. The generals stood at the front, their faces commanding and calm. The archers knelt in neat, patient rows, their crossbows at their sides. The charioteers stood beside their terracotta horses, their hands still holding the invisible reins. And the heavy infantry, row upon row of them, stood at the back, a solid, silent wall of protection. They all faced east, towards the lands the emperor had unified, towards the rising sun, as if they were ready to march out and defend him, not for a single battle, but for infinity. The silence down there, in the dark, must have been absolute, a deep, cool, profound silence, broken only by the soft, settling sound of the earth above them. For over 2,000 years they stood, and they waited. The world above them changed. Dynasties rose and fell. The language people spoke in the fields above slowly evolved. Great battles were fought, and great loves were lost, and great poems were written, all while the silent army stood, just a few short meters below the surface, in their patient, sacred sleep. Their paint over the centuries slowly flaked off, leaving only the beautiful natural terracotta color we see today. But their presence, their silent, collective watchfulness, never faded. And then, one day in 1974, a group of farmers were digging a well. Their shovels scraped against something hard in the earth, not a stone, something shaped. A fragment of a warrior's face looked up at them, silent and serene from the soil. And the army, after more than 2 millennia of patient waiting, was ready to tell its story. Today, you can travel to the city of Xi'an in China and see them for yourself. They stand in long, neat rows under a vast protective roof, thousands upon thousands of them. The same calm faces, the same strong hands. They do not threaten. They do not fight. They simply stand, an ancient, steadfast forest of human care and artistry. Looking at them, you feel not the thrill of war, but the deep, quiet peace of being protected by something bigger than yourself. They are a quiet lullaby sung in clay and fire. The true legacy of the Terracotta Army is not the power of an emperor. It is the love and skill of the unknown craftsmen, the men who poured their own quiet humanity into the cool clay, the men who knew how to shape a gentle smile, a determined brow, and a calm, wise eye. Their names are forgotten, but their souls are forever baked into the clay of those thousands of silent soldiers. They created an immortal guard for a sleeping emperor, and in doing so they left their own patient, loving fingerprint on eternity. Now, as you float in that soft, quiet space between waking and sleep, let your mind picture them, not as a frightening army, but as a silent forest of protectors, standing row upon row in the cool, dark earth. Their faces are calm. Their hands are steady. They have been watching for a very long time, and they are not tired. They are there simply to guard a peaceful sleep. And they are guarding you now, too. So let go of your worries. Breathe out your fears. You are as safe as a sleeping emperor, watched over by an army of peace. Nothing can disturb you. The night is calm. The warriors are at their posts, and all is profoundly, perfectly, peacefully well.